Hey there, you're looking kind of cute. Don't forget to subscribe and check out all my other socials. Enjoy. In the dark room, the only light came from a flickering fluorescent tube. The light made the messy desk look strange. Tim stood over the computer. He was tall and broad, wearing a loose gray hoodie. His hands, used to fighting, felt strange as he looked through transgender forums for answers. The cold and rain outside made the small room feel even smaller. "Damn it, another false hope," he said, shutting the laptop hard. He wanted surgery to change his body, but it seemed impossible. Every story he read sounded like it worked for someone else, not for someone built like him. He was much taller and stronger than most people in the stories. He wondered if his own change could ever happen. Suddenly, the screen flashed and caught his eye. Lines of static moved across the display, then the screen turned deep red. Fancy writing appeared. "What if you could have exactly what you desire?" Tim almost turned off the computer, but he was too curious. The words faded. A video started to play. A woman appeared. She was beautiful, and Tim felt jealous. She wore a tight red dress that showed off her curves, the kind Tim wanted for himself. Her dark hair hung in waves over her shoulders. "Hello, Tim." Her voice poured through the speakers like honey mixed with smoke. He jerked back. "How do you know your name?" "Oh, I know much more than that." She leaned forward, and somehow the camera angle shifted to follow her movement. "I know about the dresses hidden in your closet. The brown wig you bought but never wore. The way you practice walking in heels when no one's watching." Heat rushed to Tim's face. His apartment door was locked, the curtains drawn. No one could possibly... "My name is Mindy." She smiled, revealing perfect white teeth. "And I'm here to offer you something extraordinary." "This is some kind of hack, a scam, is it?" Mindy's fingers traced the edge of the screen, and Tim swore he felt a phantom touch along his jaw. "Look at your hands, Tim. Those massive, masculine hands. You hate them, don't you? The way they make everything feminine look wrong on you." Tim's throat constricted. He glanced down at his hands, broad palms, thick knuckles, veins prominent under the skin. "What if I told you that you could have different hands? Delicate ones, slender fingers that would look perfect with nail polish." "That's not... surgery can't... I'm not talking about surgery." Mindy stood, and the camera pulled back to show her full figure. The red dress shimmered as she moved. "I'm talking about something far more complete. A total exchange." The screen split. On the left, Mindy remained. On the right, another woman appeared. Younger, perhaps 25, with an athletic build that spoke of careful training rather than bulk. She wore designer jeans and a cream-colored cashmere sweater. Her brown hair was pulled back in a ponytail, revealing delicate features and bright green eyes. "This is Sheila Morrison," Mindy explained. 26 years old, trust fund baby, former gymnast turned yoga instructor, 5'6", 120 pounds of perfectly toned femininity. Tim's mouth went dry. Everything about Sheila radiated the effortless grace he'd always wanted. The way she held herself, the subtle curve of her hips, the elegant line of her neck. "She has everything you want, doesn't she?" Mindy's voice dropped lower. "The body, the life, the freedom to be exactly who she is without question or struggle. Why are you showing me this?" "Because I can give her to you." The words hung in the air. Tim's rational mind screamed that this was impossible, but something deeper, something desperate, leaned toward the screen. "I don't understand." "It's quite simple." Mindy gestured, and the image of Sheila began moving, stretching in what looked like a high-end apartment with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a city skyline. "I can transfer your consciousness into her body. You would become Sheila Morrison in every way that matters. Her body, her life, her memories, all yours." That's not possible, isn't it?" Mindy tilted her head. "You're already talking to me through a computer screen in ways that shouldn't be possible. Why draw the line here?" Tim's hands trembled. The wanting hit him like a physical force, years of suppressed dreams crashing over him at once. To wake up in that body, to move through the world with that easy, feminine confidence, to never again feel the disconnect between his inner self and outer shell. How? The word escaped before he could stop it. Mindy's smile widened. Leave the how to me. The better question is, are you interested? On screen, Sheila had moved to her kitchen, preparing what looked like a green smoothie. Every movement was graceful, unconsciously feminine, in ways Tim had tried and failed to replicate. She hummed while she worked, completely unaware of being observed. "She's beautiful," Tim whispered. "She's perfect for you." "Look." Mindy gestured again, and information appeared beside Sheila's image. "No close family. Parents died in a car accident 3 years ago. Trust fund ensures she never has to work, though she teaches yoga because she enjoys it. Small social circle, mostly casual acquaintances from her classes. No romantic entanglements currently. You've been watching her? I've been searching for the right match. Someone whose life could slip seamlessly into new hands without causing ripples." Mindy moved closer to the camera. "Someone who could give you exactly what you need." Tim's wrestling coach's voice echoed in his memory. If something sounds too good to be true, but the longing drowned out caution. Here was everything he'd wanted, offered on a silver platter. "What's the catch?" "Clever boy." Mindy's expression shifted, becoming more serious. "There's always a price, isn't there? In this case, it's quite straightforward. You get Sheila's body and life. In exchange, you simply need to accept the transfer. Say yes, and by tomorrow morning, you'll wake up in her bed, in her body, with her entire life laid out before you." Tim's heart hammered. "That's it? Just say yes? Just say yes." Something cold settled in his stomach. What happens to Sheila, to her consciousness or soul or whatever? Mindy waved a hand dismissively. "Does it matter? You'll have what you've always wanted." "It matters to me." "How noble." The word dripped with sarcasm. "If you must know, she'll simply cease. Her consciousness will drift into limbo, a space between spaces. She won't suffer if that's what you're worried about. She won't feel anything at all." "For how long?" "Forever, naturally. These things are permanent." The room seemed to tilt. Tim gripped the edge of his desk. "You're talking about condemning someone to eternal nothingness. I'm talking about giving you the life you deserve." Mindy leaned back, red dress shifting with the movement. "Think about it, Tim. How many nights have you lain awake, feeling like a stranger in your own skin? How many times have you looked in the mirror and wanted to smash it because the reflection was wrong? Each word hit like a physical blow because they were true. Every single one. Sheila has had 26 years of being exactly who she wants to be. She's never questioned her body, never felt that crushing disconnect. Isn't it your turn?" On screen, Sheila had finished her smoothie and moved to her living room. She curled up on a white leather couch with a book, tucking her legs beneath her in a way that looked effortlessly comfortable. The afternoon light through her windows caught the highlights in her brown hair. "She's had her time," Mindy continued. "A blessed, easy life. Trust fund baby, remember? Private schools, European vacations, never wanting for anything. While you've been suffering, she's been living a charmed existence." "That doesn't make it right. Doesn't it? Where's the fairness in her having everything while you have nothing? At least this way, one person gets to be happy instead of one person being miserable, while another takes their privilege for granted." Tim watched Sheila turn a page in her book. She smiled slightly at something she read. A real person, with thoughts and dreams and a life she'd built. The yoga studio she taught at, friends she grabbed coffee with, maybe parents she still mourned. "I can see you wavering." Mindy's voice softened. "Let me show you something." The screen changed. Now it showed Tim, but not as he was. This Tim wore Sheila's body like a perfectly tailored suit. The brown hair was styled differently, more waves and volume. The cream sweater had been swapped for a flowing blue blouse. But the joy on that face, Tim recognized it as his own happiness finally allowed to bloom. This could be you by tomorrow afternoon, shopping for clothes that actually fit, that make you feel beautiful instead of like you're wearing a costume. Making friends who only know you as Sheila, who never question your womanhood because to them, you've always been female. The image shifted. Now Sheila, who was Tim, stood in front of a yoga class, demonstrating a pose with easy flexibility. Students watched with admiration. No one stared at broad shoulders or masculine features because they didn't exist. You'd have her muscle memory, Mindy explained. Her trained flexibility, her yoga expertise. The body knows what it knows. You could step right into her life without missing a beat. But it wouldn't really be my life. Wouldn't it? You'd be living it, making choices, forming relationships, creating new memories. After a few months, who could say where Sheila ended and you began? Another shift. Evening now, Sheila, who was Tim, getting ready for a date. Applying makeup with practiced ease, choosing between dresses in a walk-in closet, checking her reflection with satisfaction instead of despair. This is manipulation, Tim said, but his voice lacked conviction. This is opportunity. Mindy spread her hands. I'm not forcing you. I'm simply showing you what's possible. The choice is entirely yours. Tim stared at the screen, at the life he could have. Every cell in his body screamed yes. To wake up tomorrow and have it all be real, to never again feel the weight of his wrong body. Wasn't that worth anything? Why are you doing this? He asked suddenly. What do you get out of it? Mindy's smile turned mysterious. Let's say I have a vested interest in trades. Exchanges, the movement of one thing into another space. It's my nature. That's not an answer. It's all the answer you need. The question is, what's your answer? Yes or no, Tim? The offer won't remain open forever. Tim looked at his hands again. Thick, masculine, wrong. Then at the screen, at Sheila reading peacefully in her sunlit apartment. She had no idea her entire existence hung in the balance of a stranger's decision. Show me her life, more of it. Greedy boy. But Mindy obliged. The screen cycled through scenes. Sheila at brunch with friends, laughing over mimosas, teaching a sunrise yoga class to devoted students, walking through a farmer's market, chatting with vendors who knew her by name, traveling, beaches in Thailand, cafes in Paris, hiking trails in New Zealand, always that easy confidence, that natural femininity Tim craved like air. She's lived more in 26 years than most people manage in a lifetime, Mindy observed. Thanks to money, of course, but also thanks to never having to question who she is or fight for her right to exist as herself. Stop. Have you made your decision? Tim's throat felt raw. The wanting was a physical pain now, watching this life he could step into like a ready-made dream. But underneath the desire, something else stirred. His mother's voice from childhood. We don't take what isn't ours, Timothy. That's what makes us good people. I need to know exactly what happens to her. No dancing around it. Mindy's expression hardened slightly. I told you. Limbo. A space between spaces. Is she conscious there? Not exactly. She would exist in a state of suspension, aware enough to be, not aware enough to suffer, but aware enough to know something's wrong? Perhaps. On some level. Like an eternal dream you can't quite wake from? Forever? Forever. These bargains don't come with return policies. Tim felt sick. The beautiful life on screen suddenly looked like a prison. Sheila's prison, where she'd be locked away so he could play dress-up with her existence. You're hesitating. Mindy leaned forward. Don't overthink this, Tim. You've been overthinking your whole life. Where has it gotten you? Alone in a shabby apartment, hiding who you are, growing older and more bitter every day. I'm not bitter. Aren't you? When you see women on the street, living their lives freely, don't you hate them just a little? Don't you think, why her and not me? The truth of it stung. He did feel that sometimes the unfairness of it all, the cosmic joke of being born into the wrong body while others took their correct forms for granted. This is your chance to fix that joke, Mindy pressed, to take what should have been yours from the start. But it shouldn't have been mine. I should have been born in my own female body, not stolen someone else's. Should, would, could. Mindy's patience was clearly wearing thin. The universe doesn't care about should. It gave you a male body and gave Sheila a female one. I'm offering to correct that error. By making her pay for something that isn't her fault. Life isn't fair, Tim. You know that better than most. At least this way, you get to choose your unfairness instead of having it chosen for you. The rain outside had intensified, drumming against the windows. Tim watched Sheila on screen, now doing an evening skincare routine. Such a simple thing, but the feminine ritual of it made his chest ache. To do that every night in that body, to wake up every morning and see that face in the mirror. I can see you want it, Mindy said softly. There's no shame in that. You've wanted it your whole life. This is just the first real chance you've had to take it. Taking it? That's the word, isn't it? I'd be taking her life. You'd be living the life you were meant to live. In someone else's body. In the body you were meant to have. Around and around they went. Tim felt like he was drowning, pulled between desperate want and basic morality. The life on screen called to him, every shopping trip, every girls' night out, every casual feminine gesture that Sheila took for granted. 5 minutes, Mindy announced. Then the offer expires and you go back to your masculine prison forever. That's not fair. Nothing about this is fair. That's rather the point. Tim stood abruptly, pacing the small apartment. His heavy footsteps shook the floor, another reminder of his wrong body. In Sheila's apartment, those steps would be light, graceful. In Sheila's body, everything would finally feel right. But at what cost? 4 minutes. Stop counting down. I need to think. You've had years to think, decades even. What has thinking gotten you except older and more desperate? She wasn't wrong. Every birthday that passed made transition feel more impossible. The hormones would be less effective now, the surgeries more difficult, the social transition harder. Starting over at his age, with his build, some dreams had expiration dates. 3 minutes. On screen, Sheila had climbed into bed. Silk pajamas, of course. A king-sized bed in a beautiful room with exposed brick walls and expensive art. She set her phone aside and turned off the bedside lamp, settling in for peaceful sleep. Did she have nightmares, Tim wondered? Did she ever wake up grateful for her body? Or was it just a given, like breathing? What dreams filled her head? What plans for tomorrow that would never come if he said yes? 2 minutes. What are you? The question burst out of him. Really, what are you? Mindy's smile turned sharp. Does it matter? I'm someone who can give you what you want. Isn't that enough? Are you the devil? Such a limited imagination. There are more things in heaven and earth, as your Shakespeare said. Let's just say I'm someone with the power to make trades. Exchanges, swaps. Why Sheila? Why her specifically? Because she fits. Because her life could be yours without causing ripples in the fabric of things. Because frankly, you two are vibrationally compatible. The transfer would be smooth. 1 minute. Tim's hands shook. This was it. The moment of choice. Say yes and wake up tomorrow in the body he'd always dreamed of. Say no and return to his life of quiet desperation, knowing he'd had a chance and thrown it away. What would you do? He asked desperately. In my place? I'd take it without hesitation. Mindy leaned closer to the screen. But then, I'm not burdened with your human morality. I see an opportunity. I seize it. That's how I got to where I am. And where is that? Offering deals through computer screens? Offering dreams to the desperate? There's always a market for that. 30 seconds. Tim looked at Sheila one more time, sleeping peacefully, unaware that her existence hung by a thread. She'd done nothing wrong except be born into the body he wanted. The unfairness of it all, but adding more unfairness wouldn't balance the scales. I can't. The words tore from his throat. I can't do that to her. Mindy's expression darkened. You're refusing? I'm refusing. I can't condemn someone to eternal limbo just because I want their body. It's wrong. Wrong according to whom? Your human morality? The same morality that says you should suffer in the wrong body forever? Yes. Tim's voice grew stronger. That morality. The one that says we don't hurt innocent people for our own gain. Even when it means sacrificing your dreams? Especially then. Mindy stood, and for the first time, Tim noticed the small horns barely visible in her dark hair. The red dress made sense now. Not fashion, but declaration. A warning he'd been too desperate to heed. "You're a fool, Tim. This chance won't come again. I know. You'll regret this. Every morning when you wake up in that masculine body, every time you see a woman living freely, every lonely night wishing things were different." Maybe, but I won't regret not destroying someone else's life for my own happiness. Mindy's laugh was bitter. How noble, how stupidly, pointlessly noble. Enjoy your principles, Tim. I hope they keep you warm at night. The screen went black. Then his normal desktop returned, as if nothing had happened. But in the browser history, no trace of whatever site he'd been on before Mindy appeared. Tim sank into his chair, body trembling with adrenaline and loss. The apartment felt even smaller now, knowing what he'd given up. But underneath the pain, something else stirred. Not peace exactly, but the absence of what would have been eternal guilt. His phone buzzed. A text from his friend Marcus. "Still on for beer tomorrow?" Normal life, resuming as if the last hour hadn't happened, as if he hadn't just been offered everything and turned it down. Tim typed back, "Yeah, see you then." He stood, catching his reflection in the dark window. Same broad shoulders, same masculine jaw, same wrong body he'd wake up in tomorrow and every day after, but it was his body, for better or worse. And Sheila would wake up in hers, unaware of how close she'd come to losing everything. The rain was letting up, weak moonlight breaking through the clouds. Tim moved to his closet and pulled out the hidden box. The brown wig he'd bought but never worn sat on top, still in its packaging. He lifted it out, running his fingers through the synthetic strands. Maybe it was time to stop hiding. Maybe transition was still possible, even at his age, even with his build. It would be hard. Some people wouldn't understand. But it would be his journey, not stolen from someone else. Tim set the wig on his dresser where he'd see it in the morning. A reminder and a promise. The dream wasn't dead just because he'd refused to build it on someone else's nightmare. Outside, the city hummed with life. Somewhere out there, Sheila Morrison slept peacefully in her expensive apartment, unaware that a stranger had just saved her from an eternal prison. She'd wake tomorrow and go to her yoga class, grab coffee with friends, live her charmed life without ever knowing how close she'd come to losing it all. And somewhere else, in whatever space she inhabited, Mindy moved on to the next desperate soul. There would always be someone willing to make the trade, to sacrifice another for their own happiness. The red dress would shimmer, the promises would flow, and eventually, someone would say yes. But not Tim. Not tonight. He pulled off his gray sweatshirt and folded it carefully. Tomorrow he'd start researching again. Real doctors this time, not mysterious websites. Support groups for people who transitioned later in life. The legal steps for changing his name and documents. All the mundane, difficult possible things that made up an actual transition instead of a magical shortcut. It would take years. Cost money he'd have to save. Mean, difficult conversations with family and friends. Some relationships wouldn't survive. Some days would be harder than others. But it would be real. It would be his. And no one would spend eternity in limbo because of his choices. Tim turned off the lights and headed to bed. In the darkness, he could almost feel Mindy's presence lingering, waiting for him to change his mind. To call out that yes, he'd take the deal after all, that his principles weren't worth a lifetime of dysphoria. He pulled the covers up to his chin and closed his eyes. Tomorrow would come, same as always. Same body, same challenges, same dreams deferred but not destroyed. And somewhere in the city, a young woman named Sheila would wake up in the body she'd been born into, living the life she'd built, never knowing that her existence had been weighed against someone else's desperation and found worth preserving. The rain stopped completely. In the silence that followed, Tim finally slept, dreaming not of stolen bodies, but of the woman he might still become, one difficult, honest step at a time. When morning came, the brown wig sat on his dresser where he'd left it, catching the early sunlight. A reminder that some dreams were worth pursuing, just not at any cost. Tim picked it up, finally removing it from its packaging. The synthetic hair felt strange between his fingers, but it was a start. He set it on his head, adjusting it in the mirror. The face looking back was still masculine, still wrong. But for the first time in years, it wasn't hopeless. The woman he saw there was possible, even if the journey would be long and difficult. Tim smiled at his reflection. Mindy had been right about one thing. He'd wanted this his whole life. But she'd been wrong about the price being worth it. Some things couldn't be bought with other people's souls. The brown wig needed styling. He'd have to learn how to do that. Learn makeup too, and voice training, and 1,000 other skills that Sheila had absorbed naturally through girlhood. It would be frustrating and imperfect and sometimes humiliating, but it would be his. The phone rang. Marcus, probably wondering if Tim wanted to grab breakfast before their beer plans. Normal life intruding on profound moments, as it always did. Tim let it go to voicemail, still studying his reflection. The wig didn't make him pass, didn't magically transform his features or shrink his shoulders, but it was a declaration of intent, a first step on a journey he'd been too afraid to start. "Hey, Marcus," he said when he called back. "Yeah, breakfast sounds good. Actually, there's something I want to talk to you about." The conversation wouldn't be easy. None of them would be. But they were necessary, and they were his to have. No shortcuts, no stolen lives. Just the messy, difficult, beautiful process of becoming himself. Or herself, eventually. When the time was right. When the journey had progressed far enough. When the woman in the mirror matched the woman in his heart through effort and time and medical science instead of demonic bargains. Tim, though maybe that name would change too, eventually, took off the wig and got ready for the day. There was work to be done, research to conduct, appointments to make, a life to build from the ground up. And somewhere across the city, Sheila Morrison was starting her morning yoga routine, blissfully unaware of the bullet she'd dodged. She moved through sun salutations with practiced grace, brown hair tied back, strong body bending and stretching in ways that seemed effortless. 2 lives, continuing on their separate paths. One that might have been stolen, one that might have done the stealing. Instead, both remained intact, facing their own challenges and joys without the weight of an unconscionable bargain between them. The sun climbed higher, burning off the last of the rain clouds. It would be a beautiful day. A day for new beginnings, honest ones built on courage rather than cruelty. A day for taking the first real steps toward a dream, deferred but not abandoned. And in whatever dimension she inhabited, Mindy moved on to the next mark, red dress shimmering with promise and threat. There would always be someone desperate enough to say yes, someone who valued their own happiness over another's existence. But not Tim, not today. Not ever. The journey ahead would be long and difficult, but it was his to take, step by honest step, into whatever future he could build with his own hands and heart. No magic, no shortcuts, no stolen lives, just the slow, steady transformation of becoming himself at last.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to check out my other socials if you want more content, early access, behind the scenes, and more. All links down below.